Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Say what? Say what? Say what? One more time.
We commence the proceedings with our signature segment, Say What, where we roll out an assembly line of wacky, astonishing, damnable, and ultimately revealing things uttered by politicians and the chattering class. And we start with just the third impeachment of a president in American history and the first along strictly partisan lines. Every Democrat except 3 voting for, every Republican against. But it was followed by a massive disconnect. After claiming it was vital to rush through a partisan impeachment because Trump is an imminent threat to the Constitution and national security, Speaker Pelosi then refused to answer questions about impeachment from the media and threatened to not even send the impeachment to the Senate, knowing an exoneration of Trump is all but certain. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell pulled no punches on what he expects to happen once the process arrives in his upper chamber.
The Senate must put this right. We must rise to the occasion. There's only one outcome that is suited to the paucity of evidence, the failed inquiry, the slapdash case. Only one outcome suited to the fact that the accusations themselves are constitutionally incoherent. Only one outcome will preserve core precedents rather than smash them into bits in a fit of partisan rage because one party still cannot accept the American people's choice in 2016.
So, one way or another, Democrats have obviously squeezed every ounce of blood they're going to get from their impeachment crusade, but they're staring down the barrel of another gun at the same time. The IG report released last week from the Inspector General Michael Horowitz revealed almost unspeakable corruption at the highest levels of Barack Obama's FBI and their surveillance of the Trump presidential campaign, with a more comprehensive report from Attorney General William Barr to follow in the weeks or months ahead. And yet James Comey, the disgraced director of the FBI, actually went on TV and claimed exoneration, despite the Inspector General's remarks that it was the opposite.
Do you think this is vindication?
It is. I mean, the FBI's had to wait 2 years while the president and his followers lied about the institution. Finally, the truth gets told.
Does your report vindicate Mr. Comey?
It doesn't vindicate anyone at the FBI who touched this, including the leadership.
The FBI was accused of treason, of illegal spying, of tapping Mr. Trump's wires illegally, of opening an investigation without justification, of being a criminal conspiracy to defeat and then unseat a president. All of that was nonsense.
Isn't it remarkable how detached from reality and transparently corrupt you can become when you're a creature of the insular bubble known as the D.C. swamp? But Comey was hardly finished with his whoppers. Here are his comments last year on the warrant they tricked the FISA court into granting, followed by the Horowitz assessment, and then Comey explaining it away as sloppiness.
Total confidence that the FISA process was followed and that the entire case was handled in a thoughtful, responsible way by DOJ and the FBI.
We identified significant inaccuracies and omissions in each of the 4 applications. 7 in the first application, and a total of 17 by the final renewal application.
I was overconfident in the procedures that the FBI and Justice had built over 20 years. I thought they were robust enough. It's incredibly hard to get a FISA. I was overconfident in those because he's right. There was real sloppiness. 17 things that either should have been in the applications or at least discussed and characterized differently. It was not acceptable.
And Comey just kept on lying on how vital the phony Steele dossier funded by the Hillary Clinton campaign was to the FISA application.
My recollection was it was part of a broader mosaic of facts that were laid before the FISA judge to obtain a FISA warrant.
And we concluded that the Steele reporting played a central and essential role in the decision to seek a FISA order.
I'm not sure he and I are saying different things. What his report says is that the FBI thought it was a close call until they got the Steele report, put that additional information in, and that tipped it over to be probable cause. It's a long FISA application that includes Steele material and lots of other material. It was one part of the presentation to the court. It was not a huge part of the presentation to the court.
I'm not sure we're saying different things. Yeah, Horowitz said black, you say white, not very different. And he lied, Comey did, about how difficult it is to get a FISA warrant. They're granted like 99% of the time. But to show you how weak their case was for spying on the Trump campaign, their first FISA application was actually rejected. And then they came back with a fraudulent Steele dossier and got their warrant and 3 renewals. When an incumbent administration spies on its political enemies, it is, as Bill Barr has said, a big deal. And believe me, we have hardly heard the end of this. Meanwhile, though no one hardly noticed, 7 presidential candidates took the stage for the Democrats' 6th presidential debate Thursday night, and the guy with a target on his back was the latest frontrunner in the first contest in Iowa, young Pete Buttigieg, who was attacked by Elizabeth Warren for hosting a high-dollar fundraiser at a so-called wine cave in, where else? California.
Billionaires in wine caves should not pick the next president.
This is the problem with issuing purity tests you cannot yourself pass. Senator, your net worth is 100 times mine. If you want to talk about the capacity to win, try putting together a coalition to bring you back to office with 80% of the vote as a gay dude in Mike Pence's Indiana.
So there you go, an aggrieved candidate and the latest punching bag. And Mayor Pete turned the attack on the 3 senators on the stage and their committee meetings in D.C. and was met with a stinging put-down from Amy Klobuchar.
You basically mocked the 100 years of experience on the stage. And I have not denigrated your experience as a local official.
That is hilarious. The Senate is a great body. You don't hear me criticizing your record as a lowly local official. Translation, you're way too small for the job. Meanwhile, a comment made by Chris Wallace of Fox News has drawn a lot of fire lately. The anchor of Fox's signature program, Fox News Sunday, made a speech at the Newseum just 2 weeks before the shutdown of that Washington-based edifice of media self-glorification, apparently meaning to ingratiate himself to elite media which detests Fox News by making a declaration that not even the elite anchors have made.
I believe that President Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. He has done everything he can to undercut the media, to try to delegitimize us. And I think his purpose is clear, to raise doubts when we report critically about him and his administration that we can be trusted. Back in 2017, he tweeted something that said far more about him than it did about us. Quote, "The fake news media is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people."
Did Mr. Wallace even notice that Trump was attacking fake news, not the media, the press in general? But that distinction is lost on swamp rats who so desperately want to be embraced by the deranged anti-Trump media. You know what? I was around for the heyday of Chris's father, Mike Wallace, a real investigative journalist. And Chris, you're no Mike Wallace. Not even close.